Hello, all. So I wanted to come on and do a discussion, and I wanted to talk about the counseling field. Now, I don't really have anything planned out for this discussion. I just kind of want the discussion to happen naturally. There are some points that I want to make about the counseling field. Now, when I say counseling field, I mean being a licensed professional counselor, a licensed clinical social worker, or licensed marriage and family therapist. And there are other types of counselors out there. And when I say licensed professional counselor, I know that has different names in different states. Sometimes they're called licensed professional clinical counselors. Sometimes they're referred to as licensed clinical mental health counselors, and so on and so forth. But I did want to touch on a few topics, and I've done some videos regarding counseling and stuff before, and I've touched on some of these issues and some of these topics. But I it's been a while, and I want to I want to discuss it right now. And but I wanted to start off by saying, I really wish that licensed clinical social workers, all of these counseling fields, I really wish that the pay would be higher, because considering the fact that you have to go back and you have to get a graduate degree, and not everybody gets a scholarship and things like that, they have to pay back all of that debt. Now, these counseling programs are really they're 3-year programs at this point. They're 60 to 65 hours, and then on top of that, you're having to get tons of hours once you graduate. So they're adding more classes and things like that, but changes in pay aren't really being they're not really changing. From state to state, it differs. But typically, if you're going to be a licensed professional counselor or a clinical social worker or a family therapist or something like that, you're typically going to be earning about anywhere from about $45,000 to about $60,000. I don't think most counselors and things like that, unless you're a supervisor or you become a part of administration, I don't think you're really going to get up to $60,000 any time, at the beginning or the mid portion of your career, unless you're in a state that the standard of living is really high, and then they start you off with something like that, or you get a raise to get there. But the typical pay is going to probably be about $45,000 to $55,000, and you're doing a lot of work for that pay. Now, like I said, you're already going to have the debt, so you're going to have to worry about that. But then you also have other bills that you got to pay. If you're you got a mortgage, or you have rent, and of course you got to feed yourself, and then of course you want to be able to do some nice things for yourself, and have some entertainment and things like that. So when it's all said and done, that paycheck is just dwindling. I really feel like after all of the training that counselors have, they really should be getting paid more like I would say the $60,000, $70,000 range, because again, it's a lot of work. It's 3 years of going through school, and again, you can't even get your full license until you meet the 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, 4,500 hours post graduation. So it's a lot of work. And then on top of that, when you're trying to get those hours and things like that, sometimes some people can't even get a job. And so they have to pay somebody weekly or monthly, to do supervision for them. So, that's another cost that you're having to deal with when you are a counselor. Now, let me just say this. Obviously, getting paid and getting a good salary and stuff isn't all what a job should be about, but at the same time, you want to make a comfortable salary so that you can do the nice things that, you know, you can go travel. And then when you have a vacation time, you can go on vacation. And you don't have to sit up there and scrape pennies together just to go on a vacation. And you don't have to worry a whole bunch about, well, you know, we can only stay a couple of days because we don't have enough money to be able to do things. Now, obviously, you know, when you're going into these sorts of careers, you don't think, oh, I'm gonna be rich and stuff. Now, I know that when you discuss private practice as a counselor and things like that, you know, you see it in movies and stuff where especially like a psychologist, they're charging $150, $250 and things like that. But, you know, you have to keep in mind that most counselors and things, they are a master's level. It's a master's level license. You don't have to have a doctorate to be a counselor, a social worker, a therapist. You don't have to have that. You do have to have a doctorate to be a psychologist. And so they obviously are going to charge more. When you are just getting into private practice and you are trying to charge, you know, $100, $150 per session, I mean, it depends on what type of clientele you have and where you're living. If you're living in a really rich, you know, a place, then perhaps people are going to be willing to pay that. But most people cannot afford $100 sessions, especially if you're going once a week. You know, so you're probably going to be charging more on a sliding scale, wherein, you know, you're going based off of people's income, or you do a set rate that's really low so that everybody can afford it. You know, something like maybe $45 an hour, $50 or something like that. But realistically, most people are not making $100 to $150 in private practice, at least not, you know, when you're beginning out. You build up a clientele, people get to know you, people refer other people to you, and then that's when you can start, you know, charging, you know, a little bit more money for your services. But all around, I think that, you know, counselors and therapists, social workers are really, really underpaid. And I think that there needs to be more advocacy for higher pay. These agencies and things like that, they are governmental funded, and, you know, of course they have budgets and things like that. But I think that they need to advocate more for higher pay. Now, let me just talk about case management positions for a minute. Now, these are typically bachelor level jobs, case management jobs, service coordinator jobs, community support jobs, things like that. They're typically bachelor's level degrees, jobs rather. And they definitely aren't getting paid anything. Typically, you may get anywhere from, you know, 11 to $15, $16 an hour, which is roughly anywhere from $21,000 to about $31,000. And, you know, you say, well, you know, that's good for a bachelor's degree, but that's really nothing. Anything really in the human services field, you're just really not going to get paid a lot for it. And again, let me just say again that, you know, nobody's asking for, you know, $100,000 salary once you know, graduate and things like that, but you do want to be compensated well. So I don't know where you all are in regard to your career and on your journey to becoming a therapist or social worker or, you know, school psychologist, whatever career field you're going into. But I have plenty of videos on you know, salary of different jobs and things like that, and I'm going to be making more. Obviously, you know, licensed psychologists are going to be paid more than you know, than counselors and things, because again, it's a doctorate level license. I would say that social workers, from what I've seen, it seems like they're getting paid a little bit more than like licensed counselors and licensed marriage and family therapists. And I don't know why, but I know that licensed clinical social workers also, there seems to be a little bit more, there seem to be more jobs available for licensed clinical social workers. They have licensed clinical social workers working in hospitals and clinics and things like that. And you don't really see a lot of marriage and family therapists or licensed clinical social workers, licensed professional counselors working in hospitals or clinics and things like that. However, you will see licensed clinical social workers working in hospitals and clinics. Also with working with veterans and things like that, you'll see more licensed clinical social workers working with veterans than you will see marriage and family therapists or licensed professional counselors. You know, you may also see more licensed clinical social workers in schools and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's due to sort of the foundational education of licensed clinical social workers. You know, much of what licensed clinical social workers and licensed professional counselors do is really the same. The only differences really are very foundational. They are much more similar than they are different. You know what I'm saying? You know, I know a lot of people would like to say, well, no, they're totally different fields. And yes, they are respected fields. They are different fields. However, again, most of those differences are really foundational. You know, you may have some different classes, some different coursework and things like that, but at the end of the day, they're really serving the same purpose, and that's to provide mental health services to their clients and to make sure that they're receiving the best quality of service delivery from the clinical social worker, from the counselor. I know that this video has kind of been all over the place and things like that, but there are just a few topics that I wanted to discuss in regard to counseling and social work and things like that. Now, I'm going to be coming out with more videos soon, and I did a pay video, and it was school counselors versus school psychologists. I'm going to be doing some more of those videos so you guys can kind of get a realistic picture of what you could possibly earn in these different fields. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.